All right, so like Lori said, whether you know much about it or not, or whether you agree or disagree with it, bailouts have become a go-to strategy. From countries to companies, there's no way around it. The bailout is also a political tool, and rhetoric surrounding bailouts seems not to be going away. To talk more about this, I'm joined by Max Fradd-Wolf, senior analyst at Greencrest Capital from our studios in New York City. And Max, let's start with this bailout of Greece. There are mixed reactions to it. How does this decision play down the road, do you think?
I mean, I think before we even get to how it plays down the road, we should take a step back from what is kind of panicked, knee-jerk, poorly informed rhetoric on a lot of parties' side. Greece is not getting bailed out. Creditors to Greece are getting bailed out. The reason that we keep hearing the term firewall is because you're building a wall around the country, letting it burn to the ground, and making sure that folks who've invested in it residing in other countries don't see the fire, leap the wall, and get to them. So this whole debate has become somewhat reminiscent of the debates we had and never really understood to our detriment around Bear Stearns and around Lehman Brothers, in which someone else is getting bailed out by giving money to Greece, which they then turn around and have to pay out to someone else.
But don't
so I
you
do
think,
your
Max,
bailout question. Don't
you think with all this attention paid to Greece, you know, and I do understand what you're saying, that it is creditors getting bailed out, but don't you think that the Eurozone and some of the leaders in Europe are going to make sure that the people of Greece come out of this, at least for the most part, stronger than they are right now?
I would love to think that. I absolutely don't. I mean, I think that the 20% unemployment, the 40% youth unemployment, the regular rioting, the hemorrhaging of the future, of the dreams of a lot of people, the near bankruptcy or total bankruptcy of a significant portion of the country's industries, the changing of the Constitution to make debt repayment a higher priority than all basic social services. I do think Greece will get through it. It's a tough country. It will get some help. I'm glad for the help they are getting. I don't think this is primarily a moral decision, but I think we should be clear, and most of the analysts aren't, that what's being done here is you're sacrificing a significant portion of the Greek economy in the hopes of keeping the rest of Europe okay and shoring up the creditors. It's more or less the same kind of story we saw with the U.S. housing market here, where what was shored up was the housing credits, not the U.S. households, and that's part of the reason we've seen millions of homes go through foreclosure.
That's an interesting comparison. So let's keep it here in the U.S. then. Tomorrow, of course, the GOP primary in Michigan, and the auto industry in Michigan, of course, big business. General Motors at one time was bailed out by Washington under President Obama. And guess what? The country just announced its largest profits ever. Now, despite what many would call a successful bailout, I want to play really quick what Rick Santorum and Mitt Romney said at last week's debate in Arizona.
He supported the folks on Wall Street and bailed out Wall Street, was all for it. And then when it came to the auto workers and the folks in Detroit, he said no. That, to me, is not a consistent, principled position. I had one. I believe in markets, not just when they're convenient for me.
Governor?
I think they wanted $50 billion. And I wrote an op-ed in the paper, and I said, absolutely not. Don't write a check for $50 billion.
All right, so let's just talk really quick, Max, about this issue of bailing out the auto industry. I mean, do you think it was successful, will be seen as successful down the road?
Yeah, look, whenever we have that discussion, we have to decide what we think is success. I think the bottom line is, for a lot of reasons, including national security, which both those gentlemen spend a lot of time talking about and saber-rattling about, you need to have an auto industry, because the auto industry also makes your weapon systems and your tanks, something that nobody brought up in that particular discussion. The bottom line is the auto worker has not done enormously well. The city of Detroit has not done enormously well. The state of Michigan has not done enormously well. But there's no way you can say they would have done better with the larger bankruptcy of Ford, General Motors, and what's now part of Fiat there in the name of Chrysler. So do I think that the bailout was better than no bailout? Probably. I also think that what history and the study of economics teaches us is there isn't just the choice that politician proposes and absolutely nothing, that there's a world of gray zones in there, and we should have and could have had a debate and come with a better policy. But if it was that or nothing, then I think it's pretty clear that what we did choose to do was a lot better than nothing.
Interesting, yeah, and so let's talk also about TARP, of course, the Troubled Asset Relief Program. In many ways, this happened years ago, but still wildly unpopular. Quite a few people today say what happened basically ensured that all the too-big-to-fail banks will be saved or bailed out. Where do you think Americans should draw the line in their support of bank bailouts?
I understand why bank bailouts are unpopular, and the TARP program kind of overpromised and has massively underdelivered. So it's helped a tiny fraction of the number of people we were told it would help. It's spent and lost more money in terms of some of the programs than it was supposed to, although most of the money has come back. I think the lesson of TARP, if we're trying to draw broadly here, and the lesson of GM is we need major industries, but we also need them to be accountable, not just to their stockholders, but to their stakeholders, to the communities, to the tax authorities that they need to fund. We did an okay job of rescuing some of our big businesses, which was probably a necessary evil, but we attached no strings. So we're now 3 or 4 years later, the general public of the United States is poorer, people keep losing their homes, corporate profits are at an all-time high, and they're at an all-time high as a percentage of national income, which speaks to a situation of we're better off with our big companies than without them, but we should have attached some strings. This no strings attached relationship forged between taxpayers as givers and large corporations as pure takers has left us in a situation where some of us have very little left to give and other folks have gotten an appetite for taking.
Well, certainly for all these reasons you've just listed, Max, it's no wonder then that the bailout has become a political tool. Max Fradwolf, senior analyst for Greencrest Capital.